Welcome to From the Hat, a PONDcast, the program where every episode is a different topic and all of the topics for the shows are drawn from the hat. Anything is fair game. I'm not looking at people. When we lift someone else, we are collectively lifted. Look for opportunities to use your strengths. I'm going to invite you over to dinner and we're going to come to family reunions together. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. On today's show, we have Melissa Rasmussen, an elite gymnast in college. She is a mother and a photographer. She owns Melissa Renee Photography. She does amazing work. Check out her social medias on the Instagram at Melissa Renee Photography. Great work. Melissa, welcome to the show today.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, is there anything you'd like to add beyond, gymnast, mother, photographer, amazing person?
Yeah. Well, I feel bad correcting you already, but you said elite gymnast. There's a big difference between elite gymnasts and college gymnasts. So I just want to clarify that I was a college gymnast, not an elite gymnast. I know any gymnast out there will understand the significance in that, but that just is a big difference. But yes, I was a college gymnast and now I'm a mom, and I work from home with a photography job. It's not full-time pay per se, but I definitely work on it full-time.
All right. And really, her work is amazing. I love seeing all the stuff that she does. I follow her on the Instagrams. Yes, an elite gymnast. She was a very good gymnast.
Yeah.
And
it's lame that you have to make that differentiation, but in gymnastics, there's the elite level is like Olympic level.
Yes.
And then below, anyway, but
yes,
doesn't really matter. But some people might care, so.
Yes. Either way, she was a gymnast, which means she did it from like the time she was like 4 years old until she graduated from college. So that's a long time of gymnastics. And she got very, very good. I have witnessed many of her events back when she was in college, and I enjoyed watching. So I've known Melissa for a long time, and I'm excited to have her on the show. Now, let's see what the hat brings us today. Ooh. Today's quote and topic comes to us by Booker T. Washington. If you want to lift yourself up, lift up someone else.
Oh, that's so good.
What are your first thoughts with that, Melissa?
My first thoughts just go to like difficult times in my life, that when I have been experiencing the lowest of lows, the best way to get out of that is to look outside of yourself and help other people. Through experiences that I've had, that's kind of what pops into my brain. Those hard times, the trials that are like the worst thing possibly you can imagine going through. Looking outside yourself is when you're able to kind of climb out of that.
Yeah, I think it's a very profound statement. And I think people who know what that's like that rings with them. We all go through things that are terrible, and we all have like what we feel are our lowest, our doldrums, our bottom of the barrel type of things. And with this quote, this idea that if you want to lift yourself up, lift up someone else. Melissa, how do you think that works? How does that work? How by lifting someone else, how does that actually lift you?
Well, my idea with that is that you stop worrying about yourself. It's okay to be selfish sometimes, and it's okay to worry about yourself, and it's something that we all need to do. We all need to sometimes take care of ourselves and worry about ourselves. But there are times in our lives that we need to put the selfishness aside and help other people. And I think when you're going through something difficult, it's okay to be upset and to experience the grief and the emotions that you experience. But I think you get to a point that how do I say this? It's easier to move on and to grow and get through it if you kind of forget about what it is. And it's not minimizing what you're going through. It's not taking it away, but it makes you focus on something else. And through focusing on that something else, helping somebody improve their life or their situation, it makes you grateful for the good things that you do have.
Absolutely does that. And it also, beyond gratitude, which I believe is the key to so many things, and having that sense of gratitude and sharing that with others. But I think you're empowered to have the strength to overcome what you need. And it's a crazy idea that you get what you need by helping someone else. It's like in Christian theology, the idea of him who loseth his life shall find it. I think that's kind of the same idea to a degree, in that if you work to lift and help others, your needs will be met, that you will be able to overcome things that you are struggling with. And sometimes that learning that comes through assisting someone else, it does empower you, but sometimes it comes the other way. The individual which you are lifting lifts you, and you are then able to overcome, what you're looking at. There's another quote which I'm fond of, which is around this topic, by Ezra Taft Benson, former Secretary of Agriculture. But he said, "If you want to receive joy and happiness, then serve others with all your heart. Lift their burden, and your burden will be lighter." There might not be a logic to this, that it's like, oh, well, yeah, I'm going to go help someone else. And through that, I'm going to overcome what I'm doing. It goes against, mainstream logic. But I do know that in my life, at times when I've gone through strugglings and things that are just harder than I ever thought they could be, when I have forgotten myself and I've looked out towards others and for opportunities to lift, to serve, whether it's going to a homeless shelter or a soup kitchen, or whether it's helping a friend move furniture. I'm pretty good at lifting things, and so, oftentimes I get called to do that. I can lift heavy things. It's a good talent. And I don't mind using it. On finding those opportunities and seeking for those opportunities to help other people, it allows us to overcome the struggles that we have. I think one of the keys in life for us, for humanity, is that we all crave purpose. Like, we crave purpose. It's not just crave, we need purpose. We need to have a goal. We need to have a reason to do what we're doing every day. And sometimes when we're going through those hard times, like, let's say, you lost your job and you're not working, that's hard. That's hard. And to not have anything to do, that focus to do. And so sometimes we can get really down on ourselves and we kind of start spinning our wheels. And I think with that, let's just stick with that metaphor of wheel spinning. If you've ever gotten your car stuck in like mud or even snow or ice, and there's just nothing for your tires to grab onto, oftentimes people start putting like branches or pieces of wood, like, a 2x4, to help just get something that your tires will grab. Stuck in ice or snow, you put sand or other things that help you get grip. And I think service does the same thing. When we're sitting spinning our wheels and we can't get out of this ourselves, it's by focusing on these other things that give us that purpose, which allows us to receive grip and traction in our lives. And that traction and that grip gets us momentum to start doing things that are more beneficial, that start to do things that will benefit us. And it's through the forgetting of that, like, oh, well, instead of focusing on, well, I'm stuck, or I'm miserable, I'm unhappy, I'm depressed, it's through focusing on outward that we are able to overcome those times of struggle. And maybe I'm overanalyzing it, but in my life, I've seen that happen time and time again. When I'm going through something hard and I look out and look for reasons or people to serve and to help lift, all of a sudden, it's like my struggles they're still there sometimes, but I come out of them quicker. They're not as big of a hurdle to go through. Also, there's another idea that I've had with, there was a book I read years ago by a former NBA player. He was the center for the Utah Jazz. He actually just recently passed away in a bike accident. His name is Mark Eaton, and he had these theories on life, and he had like what he called the 4 commitments to a winning team. And part of what those commitments were, and he said within this idea and this framework, to win, help others win. Very simple. I think when we are all individual and we separate ourselves out, we look like individuals, we focus on our individualness, we forget the whole, and that whole being humanity. And our sphere of influence, we can actually help others to win. And through doing that, there's this collective winning that happens. And we're able to, I think that's another way that we're able to overcome these struggles and trials and hard times by, again, I think it's the idea of that momentum, a momentum of winning. And when we help others to get that momentum, we can kind of grab on and can surf that wave of winning momentum as well. I mean, that's kind of this team idea, but I think that in that light, we are interconnected to everyone else. One of my favorite quotes, which I think I've referenced in another episode, but one of my favorite quotes is by John Donne. "No man is an island entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. If a clod be washed away by the sea, Europe is the less, as well as if a promontory were, as well as any manner of thy friends or of thine own were. Any man's death diminishes me, because I am involved in mankind, and therefore never send to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee." And this idea that John Donne is talking about, it's the reciprocal of it with the quote by Booker T. Washington, in that here John Donne's talking about when someone else is lessened, I am brought down. We are all together as mankind. And so when, for whom the bell tolls, it's not ominous. It's not going, oh, well, it tolls for thee. It says someone has died, and that's who that bell, but because of that, we have been diminished. We are less as humanity because of the loss of someone. Now, on the flip side, when someone celebrates the birth of, someone coming into the world, then we are added to. There's a flip side to that. But John Donne's talking about we are connected to each other. And it's through that I believe that service and serving others helps us. When we lift someone else, we are collectively lifted as a whole, and we are improved. Through those actions and through that focus on others, we are then able to have what we need to lift ourselves. Again, in this idea of collective humanity, that it might not work out in this 1 + 1 = 2 type of logic that we have, but I do know that at those times of struggle and at those times of remorse and depression and darkness that we can feel in life. And I think in the last couple years, people have felt this. They've been alone. They've had struggles, whether it's personal, financial, economic. People have had struggles. But I do know that the more we are able to reach out and to lift others, our problems and our things that we are facing tend to get answered, tend to be taken care of. That's this idea of the collective good of everyone. We lift each other, and as we all strive to lift each other, we are then lifted as well.
Yeah, it's one of those things that in society, they don't really teach you that. It's not something that is normal. Like you don't imagine that people are worrying about other people. It's kind of like every man for themselves, do what you got to do to get ahead. And I've found even not in the sad times, but I think even in the good times, mm-hmm. you become even more lifted by lifting others. There's in the photography community, there's a saying called a community over competition. Mm-hmm. And the idea of that is that as you get to know more photographers, or you can put this to any field that you are in. But for me, as I get to know more photographers in my area that specialize in the photography that I do, they're not taking my business from me. We are able to lift each other and learn from each other and grow. Both of us grow more than if we were to keep our secrets to ourselves or keep our ideas or anything like that to ourselves. We're able to lift each other more as a community than we ever would be if we treated each other like competition. And I have found that. So I'm a newborn photographer, and there are a lot of photographers out there right now, even newborn photographers. And I've found as I've gotten to know the local photographers to my area, I see them as my community. If I have a client that for some reason I'm booked or I can't see them, I refer them out to one of these other community members that I have gotten to know. And if we were acting like competition with each other, then that wouldn't happen. And so because we have grasped the idea of community and lifting, we're able to lift each other because they learn from me, I learn from them. It's just kind of like a big cycle, and it's just awesome. So yeah. I think in any area that you work in or live in, if you embrace the idea of community over competition, you'll grow. And it's kind of a weird, it doesn't make sense. It makes no sense like when you logically think about it, but it's just a weird way that it works.
I've witnessed the same thing in the voiceover community, is that everyone's super friendly to help and to help everyone else learn. There's this communal idea in that we're not lessening each other by sharing knowledge, sharing kindness, sharing goodness. There is this exponential cumulative effect that happens as we're able to increase our knowledge, our skill, our business, increase, the amount of clients you have with the idea of sharing goodness, sharing kindness, and it lifts each other. Yeah, even on those times when things are good. You don't need to create competition. I think so many times in this world, like you said earlier, we're in this dog-eat-dog world where we're all out for each other. I'm out for me. The reality is that you can only go so far. You can only go so far because we are a community. And when you look to others to lift them, and you get lifted, we can go so much farther. There's a proverb a friend of mine shared years ago, and it said, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Oh, I like that.
There's so many times in life, like if you want to go really quick, you want to do something fast, yeah. Doing it yourself, great. But so often in life, those who go fast burn out. They crash and burn. They get fast, but then they don't have the support structure, the foundation to sustain that. And then it comes to the point where it just crashes and burns. But if you want to go far, you go together. And that builds a support, that builds a foundation, that allows you to be strengthened together. And so when maybe things aren't going as great, you already have this foundation that you're able to lean back on. I think everyone in this world needs a good safety net, a good support structure. And that support structure and that safety net gets built when we look outside of ourselves and when we look to others for opportunities to lift and to serve and to do good in our sphere of influence.
And I think I'm thinking back on the moments that I have been happiest. Of course, they're fun times. That has nothing to do with service. But I feel like when I have been serving other people, it just makes me feel good and it makes me feel happy. And sometimes it didn't start that way. Sometimes I know, like when I was in high school and when I was younger, I would be forced to do service. And it would start out, I'd be grumbling, I would hate it. But then by the end, I would be like, my attitude would have changed and I would have had more of a love for the people that I served. And it just improved me. It improved my day. And I was in turn hopefully able to improve somebody else's day. It's just one of those things. It's just happy. Just makes you happy. It's so hard to explain how reaching outside of yourself can make you so, so happy.
Yeah, that's an amazing thing. That the happiness, the fulfillment, the joy that comes through helping someone else. But again, I think that has to do with the idea of we are a community. We are interrelational. People that you don't know well, you're connected to them. One of my favorite things to do is to, when I'm walking down the street with masks and COVID, this was a lot harder, to just smile. To just smile at people. And when they lock eyes and you're smiling and they go, like, just something as simple as that, to know that you just helped someone smile. You can't smile a genuine smile and not feel it. there's something inside that it just changes you. And just walk around in the grocery store, look at people in the eye, and smile.
It's simple. It's so simple, but it's such a big change.
Right. We're all stuck on devices nowadays. We're all used to looking in our phones and sitting and scrolling and swiping right and left and up and down and whatever way. And so it's hard for us to make eye contact nowadays, I would say. Like, we're being trained away from it because of our dependency on devices. In fact, years ago, I taught special ed. I was in the special ed world for 15 years. And I often worked with individuals with autism, severe autism. And one of the characteristics many individuals with autism have, not all, but many do, is the ability to make eye contact. And because this was my world, I just got to the point where I wasn't used to making eye contact, because my students wouldn't look at me. We would interact and we would do fine, but I wasn't getting the eye contact. And it wasn't something that we were really working on because it didn't really matter in a lot of things. And so I got so accustomed to not having eye contact. I noticed when I would talk with someone else that I would be avoiding eye contact because I was so unaccustomed to it. So it took me a very conscious effort to start looking at people, to start seeing them, to look at their eyes, to start noticing things about like facial features and things like that, because I had realized that I'm not looking at people. That was a game changer for me. You know, when I realized that, and I started like, okay, look at someone. When you say thank you, it really changed my demeanor. I mean, I've always been a pretty pleasant and relaxed guy, but it just kind of started my connection with people better. And I was able to connect and to see things that maybe I wouldn't have seen otherwise. And so just with that connection, I think it's happening to us as a world, as a society, that when we're so unaccustomed to eye contact because we're so used to our connection to people is through a digital screen, we struggle with it now when we're in a person-to-person community setting. And I know the benefit that comes through looking at people, through smiling, and helping make that connection. The tapestry that is our society and our world, you know, it just weaves it a little tighter, an extra little layer in when we're able to make a connection with someone. When we're able to say hi or compliment someone. It's not bad. Do it.
Right. Well, and it's not hard. I think people a lot of times, they equate service to something difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Service can be a smile. It can be a genuine compliment to somebody. It doesn't have to be anything difficult. It's anything you can do to lift somebody is service to that person.
Mm-hmm.
And people forget that because, we have our faces in our phones or we're more worried about the stuff that we have going on. And everyone has stuff going on, but it's important to lift and to encourage and create those, not bonds, because you don't create a bond with a stranger, but to lift as you can.
I'm going to argue that you can. I'm going to argue that you can make a bond with a stranger. Not like, hey, I'm going to invite you over to dinner and we're going to come to family reunions together. But I believe that you can have a bond with humanity.
But I think a bond and a connection is different.
Ah, okay.
So I think you could have a connection with somebody, but I mean, a bond, I imagine, is like a not a friendship, but it's something tighter than a connection would be.
Okay.
I don't know. There's my rebuttal, I guess.
Well done.
Woo!
It can be so simple. What are you good at? I happen to be 6'5", so I'm pretty tall, and I get asked often, and I occasionally offer when I'm at the store to grab things off the top shelf. And boy, do I love doing it.
And it's no effort for you. It's not
no
like
effort.
It's hard.
Oh yeah.
Right.
I'll grab that jar of mayonnaise. Oh, you want that shampoo? Okay, yeah. Not a problem. And I enjoy it. And I appreciate it when people will actually even reach out and say, "Hey, can you help me?" I think that's a huge thing that we find ourselves deficit as well, in that we're supposed to be so all put together and independent and self-sufficient that we don't like to show moments of struggle. Mm-hmm. We don't like to show moments of weakness or moments of I can't. It's through those moments of vulnerability, that others are able to make up that difference for us. And that's where the service part comes in too. We need to allow other people to serve us. We don't demand it. And we're not like the type that's like, well, hey, do this, do that, do that. No, that's taking advantage of. But being vulnerable and telling someone, say, hey, I can't do this. I have a hard time reaching high things. Because of my size, I don't reach very well into small things. So I'll call my kids and say, hey, I can't get my hand in there. Can you reach through there and grab whatever? The other day I was baking and I lost the measuring spoon into the cinnamon container because my fingers don't reach in. It's silly, it's trivial, but we all have limits. We all have things we can't do well. Well, let's look to others and be willing and humble enough to say, hey, I'm struggling with this. And again, it allows that collective whole to come together and to lift each other. And on the flip side, when you are serving, if someone can't do something, that's fine. We all have things we can't struggle with, which I think is why it's so important that we, as a someone who is serving, tries to be sensitive to the needs of others. Mm-hmm. It's not a judgmental thing where I'm like, oh, well, you're look at you, shorty, no, it's like, oh, I would be happy to do that for you. And sometimes you can tell that someone's looking for something on the top shelf and you're like, do you need help? They might not have ever asked, but it's great to be sensitive to someone's needs. And when you can see a need and you can fulfill it, that's awesome. We're all lifted together. And so those simple things, again, I'm 6'5", I reach tall things. I'm strong. I'm bigger. I lift heavy things. That's something I do. Look for opportunities to use your strengths. Use your talents that you have naturally. Maybe you're not going to go out and help move someone's washing machine or refrigerator, but maybe you're naturally kind and sensitive and you're able to look and say, hey, are you all right? Is everything okay?
And there has to be a sincerity about it too, because people can spot fake from a mile away. So if you are doing it to get the glory, oh, look at me, I'm serving. Look at me, I'm helping these people. Look at me, I'm doing this. People can spot that. People know. Right. And so you have to come from a place of sincerity. Like, I really want to help you. And I feel like I'm
not going to get a picture for my Instagram here. Oh, look at me helping the homeless.
Yeah, look here. Yeah, click. I think that a lot of times people do serve to get recognition and get stuff like that. And I understand that does lift to an extent, but who are they trying to lift more? Are they trying to lift themselves, their ego, whatever what's driving the service? Is it true, like the need to help somebody or to help themselves? Mm-hmm. And people definitely pick up on that. And I think sometimes with service, I feel like we've kind of gone the service route with this instead of, you'll have to reread the quote because I don't remember, but sometimes with service, you don't need to ask them. Right. I have a friend in my area that she is going through some health issues, and I didn't want to ask her, what could I do for you? Because I knew that she would say, no, I'm fine. I can handle this. Instead of asking her, what can I do for you? I asked her, when can I bring you dinner? So it was more specific. It was more a need that I knew she needed and that she would be more willing to accept instead of this broad, what can I do for you today? Because people are less likely to respond to that. Yeah. I know personally for me, if I was struggling and they say, what could I do for you? I'm kind of a private person and I kind of I try and take care of things myself. Mm-hmm. And I don't really readily accept the help as much as I know I should. So if they were to ask me, what can I do for you? I would totally lie and be like, things are great. I'm good. But if someone were to say, I see you, I see you're struggling, I see what is happening, and I want to do this for you. It's not open-ended. It's very specific. And here is how I think I can help you. Right. And I think people need to just be more aware of needs of others and not just ask them a question because you feel obligated to.
And I had a visual here, which I'm a little conflicted on because I don't want to discredit serving in any way. The idea of seeing someone and validating them and their situation is empathy. Mm-hmm. It's to be empathetic. True empathy doesn't mean you necessarily have the solution. It means you're with someone. Years ago, Craig T. Nelson, the voice of Mr. Incredible, or if you were a child of the 80s, 90s, Coach, but Craig T. Nelson, voice of Mr. Incredible, was being interviewed. Many people who have played a superhero in a movie or anything, they probably get asked, what do you think the greatest superpower is? Everyone's got their own answers. Craig T. Nelson said, compassion is the greatest superpower.
I love it.
The thing about compassion is the word passion means to suffer, and come is with. You suffer with someone. Here's where there's a little conflict, because I don't want to discredit any service. But when you're able to be with someone and you're able to go down, someone's stuck. Here's the visual. Down in the pit, and you're able to go down with them and be with them and understand their situation, and then you can help lift out. There's great power to that. You have gone in and you've put in the effort, as opposed to throwing a rope down. And this is where I think it's good to help anyone out of a pit. Where this perspective is coming from is, for 5 years I worked for a humanitarian hunger relief organization, and we would package meals with organizations and businesses and schools, and we would do these great events where you could package 10,000 meals in an hour and a half, in 2 hours. So cool. And then we'd send the meals out to schools and around the world to help stimulate education in growing communities, and they'd get fed. Because of that, I've interacted with thousands and thousands of people, and I've seen the many different attitudes of service. I've seen the ones that are there because they look good on Instagram, when they can say, look, I'm serving. Again, not totally knocking it, because they're still doing good. But I think you're missing the point if that's your motivation. Some people have the attitudes of we're the haves and we're serving the have-nots. And that's where my visual of like, oh, well, I'm on the high ground out of this pit. I'm going to lift you out because I can lift you out because I'm superior. I'm up. And again, I think serving is great, but I think you as an individual are missing, as the server, are missing the full benefit. I've seen companies that do it because it looks good. Hey, we're a company. We're doing this service project, and great. But then I've seen people who really have investment in the mission and want to know about the recipients and those who are impacted. And they've got this like idea of, oh, we're in this together, instead of the haves serving the have-not. But that idea of compassion and to suffer with someone, to recognize them, to see them. People all want to be seen. And we are hesitant to say, oh, can you do this for me? Or, when people say, oh, well, let me know if you need anything, even if it's sincere, and someone's saying, oh, well, let me know if you need anything, we're not going to always, oh, well, I need this.
Right.
And so it is important to be sensitive, to look for opportunities, because even if you're off, your heart's in the right place. And that's a key. What are your motivations in serving? Are your motivations to make you look good? Or are your motivations to lift the other person? And it's through that true service, when you are there to fully forget yourself and help someone else, that's where both parties are benefited through service. And that's where you're both lifted and you're supported, and you become greater than the sum of your parts by that.
Yeah, it might start out as a, look at me, I'm serving. But if your heart really is in it, that should change and should progress to, I really care about these people, or I really care about this situation, or whatever it is. Hopefully it would progress that you want to empathize with them, and you want to be with them to lift together.
Yeah, whether your motivation changes in that way, or, how many times in my youth did we have service projects where either, in school or in church or whatever, you had a service project. And so many times you'd start and be like,
Right.
But as you go and as you invest yourself and as you forget yourself, every single time I left those going, that was awesome. That was really neat. So great to be able to do those things and to feel good, to know you did good, to know that you helped lift someone else is so empowering individually as well. It's just a great thing. Now, let's go to story time. What is a time where you were able to give service that maybe you had an attitude change, or maybe whatever, maybe you were all in from the get-go? What's the story?
I'm trying to think of something specific, because like you, there was service projects galore growing up at church and at school, and I can't think of anything specific, but there is something that I'm kind of in the thick of right now. So it was about 11 years ago, we had a stillborn son, and hopefully I don't start crying, because every time I talk about him I cry, but we had a stillborn, and there's a special thing that happened in the hospital I never would have thought of asking for this. I didn't even know it was a thing. But during that time, a professional photographer came in and took very special pictures of us with him. And these pictures are the only things that we have of him. We hadn't purchased any clothes. We hadn't purchased anything for him. And so these pictures are the only things that we have to remember him. And I don't know what everyone believes. We believe we'll be with him again. We believe that we will see him again. But here on earth, those are the memories we have of him, and those few special images are him. So they're very, very special to us. And I didn't get into photography because of that experience. I didn't get into photography until we had our first rainbow baby, and she was a newborn, so she was my very first. But now, as I've gone farther into my photography career and gotten, I don't want to say distance, but well, I guess distance is the only word, distance from that experience of losing our son.
You've come to more terms with it.
Yeah. I mean, when you lose somebody, there's always a hole. There's always
Absolutely.
a scar. There's always something that will trigger a remembrance of them, or something that makes you remember that experience. But being 11 years out from that, I'm able to take that experience and hopefully help other people who are currently going through that. So being a photographer, I've started the process. I'm not currently a volunteer with them yet, but I have started the process of becoming a volunteer photographer for families that have lost an infant, whether it's through stillborn or if they're born and then they die in the hospital or anything like that. I've started the process to become that photographer that comes in and takes those special pictures. I know people they won't necessarily ask for it, but going through that experience myself, I understand how important those images are. And if I'm being totally honest, 2, 3, 4, 5 years after we lost him, I didn't like looking at those pictures because it was still so raw. But now I'm grateful for them. And I hope that me doing this service will help them in years to come to remember their child, because they had that baby, whether the baby died at 20 weeks or whether the baby died at 40, it doesn't matter. You had that baby is yours, and you need to remember those moments. Yeah, they sucked. Yeah, they hurt really, really bad, but those are moments that you won't get back. So I hope that I can, through that service, that I can help other people. And I know it's selfish, and here I am. We were talking about doing service for selfish reasons, but I hope that doing that, I'm able to grow and I'm able to continue to heal. I mean, it's been 11 years, and I don't think I'll ever, air quotes, heal from the emotional things that I went through that experience, but hopefully it will help to bring more happiness. And I can only say healing, even though it's not a wound anymore, it's a scar, but to find joy through a difficult time.
Well, look at that though. I mean, there's kind of the whole idea of this quote that, if you want to lift yourself, lift others. And in that, you've gone through some hard things. And you have the ability, because of those struggles that you've gone through, to truly empathize with somebody and to get what they're going through and to understand that. And you're able to then take your talents and your abilities, your struggles and your understandings and your perspectives, and you can now apply those and the lessons you've learned to the service of others, in hopes that they will also be able to overcome those same struggles and pains that you have felt, and that they can be comforted and lifted out of that situation. The original quote, Booker T. Washington, if you want to lift yourself up, lift up someone else. He's not going in saying, well, just serve people. He's going in, if you want to lift yourself up, lift someone else. So there is a motivation there to lift yourself, but you do it through the lifting and the service of others. And that is where the power comes. You do it, I believe you forget yourself, you focus on the needs of others, and through that, you are also lifted. Thank you, Melissa, for being on our show today. Really excited to have what you said. So until next time, when we draw another topic from the hat, you take care. We'll see you on the flip side.